2 months ago, I made a multi-million-dollar alcohol company lose hundreds of thousands of dollars due to a video report I put out. This is why it happened and where the situation is currently at. Hey y'all, I'm Johnny Wanzer, and this is the last video I'll be making on this subject. So a couple of months ago, I did an expose piece on the toxic misogynistic boys club Citizen Cider's management has been cultivating for years, as well as many safety and production violations gone unchecked with the company. I obtained this info by interviewing 35 ex-employees after local media outlets failed to cover a Reddit thread where employees claimed 15 plus people walked out on the company within the same week. Although these folks contacted me before the thread, I held off when learning they were also talking to traditional media about the situation. After media outlets 7 days failed to cover a majority of the complaints, omitting all the sexual harassment, safety, and production violations, employees came back to me feeling upset and extremely let down. I then called out 7 days for this on my socials, to which the owner responded to me a week later in an editorial, saying they had covered everything correct while also invalidating me as a nameless person on Instagram and the platform to which I cover topics, falsely claiming how folks online are not subject to lawsuits and liabilities. Spoiler alert, I am. So after about a month of interviewing folks in person, on the phone, through DMs, emails, and conversing with my lawyers, I released the video on Wednesday, October 11th. To which the proper story instantly blew up, causing folks to boycott the product while contacting local shops to pull it.
Hey, you guys ever hear of this Johnny Wanzer guy? This kid's costing me a lot of money.
I'll be sipping cider. It ain't Citizen. I'm too real. Thank you very much, Johnny Wanzer. That's a good spill.
Typically, companies involved in sensitive controversies like this put out a statement within the first 48 hours, but after 72 hours, there was absolutely no acknowledgement or response from citizens. All they did was turn off their comments on posts and delete bad Google reviews. Meanwhile, on the inside, they had a company-wide meeting and sent out an email telling employees none of the allegations were true and to wait for it to all blow over. So this prompted me to leak the email and compile a list of businesses dropping Citizens. Due to their continued silence for 6 days, the community helped grow the list of businesses daily to include some of Citizens' biggest Vermont clients, dropping their cider market share in the state from 41% to 32%. Instead of finally putting out a statement and stopping the hemorrhaging, they responded to these efforts by removing their cider locator tool from their website that folks were using to contact businesses. A community member responded by creating a cached version that people could still use, which eventually helped the list to grow to 200 businesses. Though the video had amassed more than 200,000 views at that point, no media outlet had covered or even contacted me about the growing boycott. But then on the 7th day, they finally did.
Beverage company based in Burlington is not toasting this.
Citizen Cider is disappearing from store shelves and from bars and restaurants.
Citizen Cider found itself in hot water with some in the community after harassment allegations were spread via anonymous social media posts. Local comedian Johnny Wanzer claims he obtained reports from 35 employees who said the company enabled harassment, homophobia, sexism, and misogyny.
I choose to believe the victims in this story.
The company disputes Wanzer's claim that employees were mistreated and that 150 businesses have dropped its product. Though it would not give us the number which they took their store locator offline.
There's nothing circulating via the gentleman you mentioned that is based in truth, and I would urge you to look for additional data points beyond that.
President and co-founder Justin Heilenbach would only grant us a phone interview. He says this has turned into a smear campaign riddled with lies.
Especially when it's based on the misinformation that's circulating.
The night before the first report aired, Citizens finally put out a statement in which it claimed everything I reported was misinformation, invalidated these accusations due to them being anonymous, and diminished every single complaint from 35 ex-employees over the past 10 years down to a communications issue, all while avoiding addressing any issues directly. If you'd like to read a more in-depth response from me, visit my social media pages. I must highlight though that they didn't do this due to their own volition. They were only forced to put out this statement, not because of the walkout, the thread, the 7 days article, my video report, the past week of the community's complaints, or the businesses dropping them, but because traditional media was now interviewing them. They now simply couldn't just let it all blow over.
It's bringing in a third-party organization to evaluate personnel policies, internal practices, and to interview employees and share their findings.
This initially caused a backlash, as they did not name the third party, nor did anyone think interviewing workers still there would get them the correct answers they needed. So a week later, they posted another statement that finally gave the name of the organization, as well as opening it up to those past employee testimonies. And yes, I can confirm that in the following week, CSC Investigations did talk to a lot of the same folks I did. A week later, Citizens released yet another statement claiming that an out-of-state A2LA certified lab had verified that their cider was in fact gluten-free, contesting a claim in my report from an ex-production employee that the cider was brewed using the same tools as the beer. But Citizens failed to post the actual test results, which lab did the test, or whether the product they tested it on was produced before or after my video. They also did not address that specific allegation directly, as they only did this not for customer concerns, but businesses like City Market and Healthy Living only pulled the products because of that issue. And as of a few days ago, Healthy Living is now carrying their product again. But because their statements fell short and were not posted promptly, Citizens had lost 80% of their Vermont clientele through feral distribution. In fact, their cider market share in the state is now at 23%, down from 41% just a couple of months ago, which has led them to be discontinued by Costco, one of their biggest accounts. By December, it got so bad that Feral bought extra stock just so Citizens could make payroll. Feral will have to spend additional funds to destroy when it eventually codes out. In my opinion, I am not surprised Feral is doing this. Around the time of the 7 Days article, this leaked email from their owner David J. Farrell defended Citizens to its employees by claiming there is no merit in attacking the company. They have been a model of inclusivity and diversity in the community. Farrell will continue to support them. All coming from an owner who has had his fair share of internal controversies as well.
Company says it's working to right its wrongs following allegations of harassment, misogyny, and homophobia. Citizen Today says we are deeply sorry that these mistakes have led to some employees feeling hurt and disappointed in us. It is our commitment to fostering an environment that reflects our shared values and ensures a workplace where everyone feels respected.
2 weeks ago, Citizen finally posted about some of CSC's investigation results, acknowledging and pulling the offensive "Hey Bub" shirts, while also falsely stating they never forced employees to wear the shirts, when in reality they had reprimanded and even fired a few employees over this very issue. They also falsely stated their HR department has always been independent from the ownership. 5 employees that I interviewed claimed that the co-owner's wife was the entire HR department and that she gave her husband confidential information, she was told, that he then weaponized to oust employees. The statement also says they are reintroducing the HR department with new tools and increased accessibility, but do not specify exactly what that means. This last statement yet again fails to address the allegations specifically, nor takes the responsibility for calling the issues stated by their victims in my video as misinformation, even though they are now generally acknowledging the issues stated in my video. In my opinion, this statement was written with the continued mentality of hoping that this will all blow over. And do you remember Eric Young, Director of Operations, who the majority of the issues were stemming from? Around the time of the 7 Days article, he was promoted to Vice President of the company. But one thing they didn't include in their last statement was that 2 weeks ago, he was actually fired as a result of the investigation. While this is the absolute right thing to do, and I do give them credit for it, by not publicly addressing it, it undermines this stated commitment to changing. By continuing to not take accountability for any specific allegation regarding him, not admitting they were wrong for calling every claim about him misinformation.
There's nothing circulating via the gentleman you mentioned that is based in truth.
And again, continuing the mentality of hoping this will all blow over. Oh, and you should have fired him the day after my video. Nope. After the 7 Days article. No. After the Reddit thread. No. After the walkout. Nah, actually, years before when all those allegations were actually happening and being reported for the first time. Only after a third-party investigation told you to. It feels like you were protecting him until you finally couldn't. So what's my opinion on all of this? Am I happy about the aftermath of the video? While I'm glad those victims' voices were heard and the community rallied behind them, no, I'm not entirely happy. And listen, I don't give a fuck about the death threats, the personal insults. I come up with better insults about myself in these videos. The ignorant right-leaning snowflakes calling me woke. I'm a socialist, by the way, not a liberal, you fucking dumbasses. Please make fun of me correctly so you don't look like a fucking idiot. The threat of being sued. Y'all know I prepare legally for these more serious videos, right? I've had lawyers for like 3 years now, people. People invalidating my reporting because reports were anonymous. You know there's a long history of traditional journalists protecting whistleblowers so people like you don't harass them or mess up future job opportunities for them. Also, a lot of people aren't mentally prepared to handle this amount of heat. The folks trying to start fights with me in public, it's all baby Fisher Price bullshit at this point in my online career. There's a reason I typically don't go after independent businesses like this in this fashion. A lot of the time, it's the lower level employees who suffer from things like this. It's the person that doesn't have the opportunity to care about the politics of the company because they're just trying to get to the next paycheck. It's these people that have to deal deal with the public's criticisms on the front line. It's their pay and jobs that get cut first, all on top of dealing with the stress of their job from management, the workload, and the general public. I have a lot of empathy for these folks because I've been these folks before. I tried to help by compiling a list of businesses hiring adjacent jobs, to which I have sent to 6 employees working there post-video. I know it's not the solution or even a good solution, but it's the means to which I have in my position here. This stuff's very gray area, but because this video was birthed out of other lower level employees leaving en masse due to wild allegations about the management, and everyone was failing them, I felt like this story needed to be told. While I'm sorry to those employees, I'm not sorry for making the video, and I stand 100% behind everything I said in it and everything that happened afterwards. While I do feel a sense of responsibility, let me ask everybody watching this. Whose responsibility was it really? Was it management's responsibility to just be ethical this whole time? Or to not lie and deflect allegations in news articles and statements? Or to respond in a timely and correct manner after my video? Or when the 7 Days article came out? Or when the Reddit thread dropped? Or when all the employees left en masse? Or when employees complained for months prior? Years prior? I think it's on the employees' management to create an inviting work environment for all their employees. By causing and mismanaging all these issues for years, by ignoring all these complaints, by claiming all these accusations were false, by not responding on time, by trying to wait for things to blow over in order to maintain your problematic status quo, you have failed to manage your company's image, you have failed to manage your company's profits, you have failed to maintain your market share, you have failed your current employees, and you, Justin, have failed to manage your company not just before, but during all of this, and in my opinion, you should be fired from this third-party investigation. Your arrogance and incompetence have doomed your company, and for that, as an independent third-party investigator, I don't feel responsible for reporting this. Let this be a case study on how not to handle a PR crisis.
I be sipping cider, it ain't Citizen, I'm too real. Thank you very much, bartender. That's a good spill.
Oh, also, Tom Miller can suck my fucking dick.